Hello everyone, welcome back to an Adobe Live with me, Holly Rose Stones. I am so excited to be here. It's currently quite dark. I'm in the UK, so it's 7 p.m. at night. But let me know where you are and what time it is there as well, because it's just fun to see where everyone's joining me from. But today I'm going to be working on a self-portrait right from the very start to the end edit. So if you don't know me, I'm Holly and I'm a self-portrait artist and I create surreal worlds, kind of self-portraits in the studio. A lot of heavily Photoshop, but also I create like sets and props in the studio. So here's a sort of some examples of my art. I like to work with nature, but I also like to work with sort of like a lot of painting backdrops. And my art is kind of my expression of my mental health and like the themes are quite yeah, they're just an extension of myself. So today we're going to be working on an image which I actually just posted on Instagram. So if you're not following me on there, then head over. We're going to be working on this one, which is the Heartwork in Progress. If I just click on this, um, we've got a bit of a slow internet, but it's fine. So this is the image that I'm going to be working on today. I shot this in the studio with the actual hearts on my face, but I'm going to show you the before in a second. So let's head into Photoshop and we'll just get cracking because there's quite a lot to do and I really want to just get to it. So the image started as an idea that I had in my head of just basically, I go into the studio quite a lot and just experiment. And I just kind of like go with the flow, see where it takes me. And then sometimes I open up in Photoshop and I'll play even further with the concept. So it almost evolves from conceptualizing the idea right through to the final outcome. Um, and I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat as well over here. So, Sean, hi, Sean. Hi, how are you? Nice to see you again, or see you in the chat. Hi, Penny. Hi, Robert and Franco. And who else? Who else is there? Well, is it? Sorry, the chat's going a little bit slow over here. But anyway, we'll get back to the edit. So the before photo, and I'll show you that now. So this is the original image. So I kind of went in with a bit of an idea to do a backdrop, well, the backdrop being yellow. But as I was in the studio and I was putting these hearts on my face, I actually cut them out of like green velvet. I'm not sure if you can actually tell, but they're actually green velvet hearts. But when I was shooting this, they were so dark that you couldn't see the green. So I kind of brought in a light from my side, as you can see the highlight in my hair. So this is an actual external light which I shot. So I usually shoot with a massive softbox, which is about 1.5 meters, and that's quite high in the sky. And then I have like usually nowadays I quite enjoy having a light that lights me up from the side. So this is kind of the light that you can see here. Um, so that's green, which I put basically a gel over the top of the light. But yeah, I kind of went in with this green velvet, which is kind of like a sticky back one. But I was again experimenting in the studio. I knew the concept and the idea and sort of like the message that I wanted to send, but I didn't know how I was going to shoot it and what it was going to come out like. So again, this was quite an experimental one. Oh, from Sweden. Hello. And who else is here? Helena. Hello, Helena. Um, so yeah, I kind of was playing around with this green backdrop. You can't even tell it's green because it's so dark the way it was shot. Um, but it's a very, very dark. In fact, you can see the top there. This is where it's pinned to the backdrop. And as I was putting it up, this bit of well, the actual roll, because it's like a roll of velvet, was just like folding over. And I was stood there thinking, oh, this would be quite good if I just put it on my head and see where it goes. So I shot a few images and this was my base image. So I usually start with like a base image of what I like, well, an image that I like the most out of the set, but sometimes I might go back and forth depending on the way that I'm shooting, and the way that I'm editing, because obviously the outcome, I'm not actually sure what it's going to be yet, because I know there's got to be a lot of elements added to it. But anyway, we'll get to it. So if we go to the edit, And I'm just going to go through my layers on the right hand side here. Excuse me. In fact, let's move that back up because I'll get confused. So if I just uncheck all these layers, I'm going to take you back to the start. So there's a few things. I've got a few steps, as you can see on here on the layers. I'm not sure if you can see, but if you zoom in, you can see that I've got a few steps that I want to take you through. So we've got step one, which is my base layer. So what I do with the base layer before I actually start anything, I always make my images 4x5. That's just kind of like the orientation that I use. Let's see. Oh, Switzerland. Oh, I'm going to Switzerland in a few weeks skiing. We're going to Wengen. I absolutely love it. That's really cool. But yeah, so step one is the base layer. So I'm going to show you that, what I did. I will be editing this in a minute. I'm just going to flick through them, then we'll go back so you just can see what's to come. Then the next thing that I did was I wanted the hearts, although I've cut these out as precisely as possible, I want the hearts to be a bit cleaner because you can see where obviously the cut lines and things like that. So I wanted to go back in and liquify them. So if I just turn that on and off. So as you can see there, I just made them all more uniform just to unify the image, I suppose. If you can see here, actually you can see a bit better. So that was my second step. The third step, I decided that I didn't want gold earrings in this image. I just wanted them to be black. So I changed them to black, and I also changed the hair, and I wanted more of that green hue on the hair there, on my actual hair, the ponytail there. So I did step 3, which is the earring change. I will come to this earring in a little bit. I think I changed that at the end, but I just wanted to change them to black just to like unify the images a little bit more. Then step 4 was the torn paper edge. So if we go back to the actual image, this one, you can see the edge of the paper is torn. And now I knew when I was shooting this that I did want it to be torn, but I thought I can do that in Generative Fill or using the workspace and edit it in. So what I did, and I'll show you, obviously I'm going to go back through all these steps. Step 4 is I did the paper, the torn paper. And then I did the heart. So I thought to myself after I did all this, done the paper edge, made the hearts a bit, more uniform. I wanted more hearts. There was just a little bit, there was too many gaps. So I ended up adding more hearts to the image. So I'll show you again what I did for that. Then step 6 here, I've got the scissors. So when I got to this point, and I think you'll see in a minute, I do actually change this to yellow, which again, I'll show you in a second. But at this point, I was like, it's just looking a little bit too bare at the top. And I've been really, really loving adding in elements using Generative Fill and the workspace. And I'll show you that as well when we get to it. So when I was looking at this image, all I could think of is how many hearts that I cut out. So I decided that I was going to add some green scissors and obviously change this bit to yellow because I thought it just wasn't quite unifying together, and I felt like it sort of like, well, it was brown paper and it just felt a little bit, it just didn't work for me. So I added the scissors and then I added the heart because I was thinking about cutting out the hearts. So that is pretty much, and then after that, finally, I would retouch, which I'm going to show you as well. So a bit of dodge and burning. And then, like I said, I did change this one. Oh, I don't think it's actually changed. No, I'll show you that one. I did change this one to black as well if I go on the actual image there. Just little tiny details like that. So if we go back to the start, we'll go on the base layer. So the first thing that I do a lot of the time, because obviously I'm shooting portrait, but I do want them to be 4x5. So I make sure that the canvas is 4x5. So I basically just crop it wider. Sometimes I do use the extent. So if you go on the crop tool, you can do the generative expand. However, I feel like sometimes I want a bit more control of like the selection of it. So I tend to just go in with, if I just do a rectangular marquee tool and then generative fills. And then just don't put anything in. I just wait for that to work. Who's in the chat whilst we wait for that? Alessandra, hello. Barbara, hello. So I have this problem quite a lot because I do have skin out, and I know that obviously it's for a reason, and I understand it. Just like with the whole protection and everything, and sometimes it does miscommunicate this area. So I have to, in fact, might as well just show you the actual outcome. So if I go on step one, so I'll just take these off. So to get around that, sometimes I will put like a black box over my skin and it does actually work. So, but for time wise, I want to get through this quite quickly and obviously I want to show you all of the tools. So if I go to generative fill, this is the first one that I did. Obviously it did it perfect, but I needed a little bit more, so I added a bit more at the edge. Then I did the right hand side, and then I just generative filled that bit as well at the top and just to get rid of it. Base image, we've got the base image there. So the next thing that I did was liquify the hearts. So I'm going to show you what I would do. So if I go to filter, liquify, this is kind of one of my favorite things to do. I'm just going to go on zoom in because it's very satisfying because I love seeing the before and after of this. So I'm just going to go quickly in and liquify these hearts. So I'll just go in and make them a bit more uniform. Try not to interrupt the skin too much because I don't want it to look like they've been liquefied. And sometimes if I'm having trouble with just liquefying them like this, I'll click on this tool, which is the bloat tool. I didn't know that's what it was called, but there you go. And I just click and just bloat them out. So they go a little bit more uniform because although these hearts took me about an hour to cut out, they're not perfect. So I need to make them a little bit more uniform. Robert, I love how Hollywood and use. Yes, so I obviously am a self-portrait artist and I started being a self-portrait artist because I was quite an insecure kid. I say kid, I was probably about 14, 15 when I started shooting self-portraits. And I had all these weird, wonderful, strange, unique ideas that I wanted to portray, but it was really hard for me to articulate them to people. So rather than get models or people to help me, I tended to just use myself because it was very quick. Plus, I was in that stage of like trying to figure out my style. So over the next 10 years, I kind of was like, I want to know where I want to take my art. I started off as a painter, a fine artist, and then I realized that actually I was using Photoshop and photography to create subjects to paint. So I ended up just doing the self-portraits anyway. So I do actually want to get back into painting them in the future. That's kind of like a goal of mine. So yeah, that's why I started being a self-portrait artist. And it kind of just stuck and I just love it. I love going in the studio. I get lost in my thoughts. I just play around. I experiment all the time and it just makes me feel so good because it's just like, yeah, just being in front of the camera and just experimenting. So if I just do all these hearts. And as I was editing these hearts, I noticed that this one here was just looking really awkward. And you can't even tell it's a heart. So I ended up removing that with generative fill, which again is my favorite thing to use because it's super quick. I mean, this used to take me hours to just remove, not necessarily this. This would probably take me a few minutes, but things that would took me hours now takes me seconds like that. So Let's zoom out, fit on the screen. So let's have a look. These are the liquefied hearts. Let me just see what I actually put in there. Yeah. So I've liquefied my hearts. I've made them all uniform. And then I decided, like I said earlier, that I wanted to change the earrings to black. And at first I actually coloured them in, just using a black brush. And so it was basically just a brush. Change the opacity of that actually. And then after I did this, I was like, it's not working. I don't like the way that it's highlighted it. So I decided just to generative fill it. So if I make the selection, so I always like to make the selection as tight as I possibly can, but with a little bit of room for it to maybe give a bit of a shadow. Like as you can see here, there's a shadow there. So I made sure that I was round the whole of my earring, round the whole earring, and then back. And if I just go generative fill, I think I put black hoop earring generate. And because generative fill is, well, it's using my image and obviously what it knows from learning what a black hoop earring is, but because I think it's taking my imagery. Let me just have a look. So this one's not been the same as what came out earlier. Hang on. I go on to here. These actually were the very first ones that I did. So if I click on that one. So you can see it's kind of like copied the style of my earring, especially this one, and put in hoops. Again, this would have taken me hours before because I would have been going off and obviously finding a earring off a stock image or maybe taking a picture of a stock image earring or taking a stock image myself. But now it's super quick. And this is what I love about Photoshop, I think now is that, I mean, I've always loved it. I've used it for years and years and years. I think I've got my 15 plus year badge. I think it must be about 17, 18 years. But let's have a look. That is good to use instant glue for the hearts. Yes. So I actually stuck these on with, in fact, sorry, no, it's double back. That's why it's got a brown back. So this is a green velvet, and this is the backing. So basically just peeled them off, which was good. So this stuck to my face. So yeah, I did the earrings, and then the next thing to do was the highlight. So let me just take off my hair, actually. There we go. We'll just take that one off. So to highlight my hair the same as the, let me click on that one. There we go. The same as my hair here. I'm not even sure why this happened. I need to actually look at the other images, but the green highlighted this part of my body, but not my hair here. So I need to work this out. I think maybe because this is a bit further back. So obviously and it was quite a direct light. I used basically just it's direct light with a dish on and then put the gels in front of it. And if you want to know more about my behind the scenes and how I create these images, I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, so you can see how I would actually shoot this. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat here. Right, so next is the hair, yes. So what I'll do is I'm just going to pick up a green from here using the brush tool, and then I'm going to highlight just really quite loosely, to be honest, because this is such a dark backdrop that when I do put a blend mode on it, it does blend quite well. So I would just scroll through here and have a look, but usually overlay or color. I think I did color. Color or hue, probably hue actually. So if I do this, I'm just going to put in a little bit more there. And then I think I actually put some a little bit down this side. Well, not too much because I think I quite liked the green highlight on my body. But just to make it a little bit pop. So there's the before and after of that. So next thing that I did was the torn paper edge. And this was quite a hard one to do because it took me probably about 30 generatives fill in. How would you say that? It took me about 30 goes to try and get the torn edge that I wanted. And I've got the pieces here because I did it whilst I was sat at the table. I even ripped up some paper, brown paper, and photographed them on my phone and uploaded them well, airdropped them to myself and put them on the image just to see if it would pick up the torn edge. Because yeah, again, you don't know what the outcome is going to be, but sometimes it's quite nice because then it gives you more inspiration. So step 4 was torn paper edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle this edge here. And it doesn't have to be too neat. In fact, let me do that a little bit closer. So I use a Wacom tablet, so it's quite easy to do like the pen drawing. I'm going to put torn paper edge. Torn paper edge. I believe that's what I wrote. Here. Oh, Brendan. Hi. I've just noticed that you're on YouTube. Hello, Brendan. So again, like I said, it took me a while to get this because I think obviously it's quite an unusual place to put torn paper, and I think that obviously where's it taking reference from? So I'll see if this next one works, but if not, I'm going to go on to the ones that actually did work. Oh, there you go. So this torn edge, I mean, that one's pretty good. I quite like that one. And then I actually used, oh, hang on. That's great. Then I circled this edge because I felt like this bit was a little bit too neat. So I put torn paper edge. We'll see what that one comes out like. I think it was quite hard. Oh no, not too bad. That first one kind of works here, but doesn't work here. So let's go on to the ones that I actually use. So let's click on step 4. And as you can see, the yellow mark is here because I did some more generations later on. So if I click on this one, I actually did this in sections. So I did this first. So let's just zoom in so you can see what I've done. So I did this in sections because the quality is a little bit better when you do it in a bit smaller sections. Plus, if I did a big one like I just did, some areas I feel like it knows to continue the same tornness. I don't know how to explain it. So obviously I did 9 iterations for this one. Let's have a look. So I think I used that one. So then I went and I circled this bit here. So I would just circle that. And then this bit popped up. So it basically used the image itself to like recreate what it thinks that it would continue as, if that makes sense. So then I went right up to the top. And then the next bit, if I just go back, actually zoom out a little bit, so you can see before and after of that. The before is the straight edge, and then after is the torn edge. Then I did the face bits. If I just go and click on this one, I'll zoom in again. So I think I did this after I actually turned the, because of the layers aren't in the actual order of me editing. I just put them in an order just to show you how I would go from A to B. So these are actually yellow edged because I did change the color of this, but that's later on. So as you can see here, it's created it in a yellow torn edge because that's when I created it. Let's fit that on the screen. So I got to this point, obviously I said earlier that I wanted it to be a bit more full, so more hearts. And I'm really excited how I did this. I feel like this is one of my favorite parts of this image. Um, so if I go on the new hearts, but in fact, I'll show you how I did it from start to finish. So if I click on the lasso tool and select one of the hearts, and then I'm just going to copy and paste it to take it up to here. I'll zoom in. Unfortunately, the select subject tool doesn't work on this or remove background because I think it's just not sure what the subject is at this point. So what I did was just get the magic wand tool, and I wasn't too bothered about the edge here because I was going to generative fill it later, or add the shadows. So if I click on the heart, it selects it, and then I'll just go onto the mask. It masks out the skin. Then let me just have a look, see where I want this heart. So let's say it's down here. I might just change the shape just a tiny little bit so it doesn't look like the heart on my face. And then I'm just going to press the tick and I'll go in. And this is how I created like the shadow. So I'd usually just create this with a brush tool. But because of the edges being quite, oh, not green, obviously we don't want a green shadow. But because the edges being a little bit harder, they're not like as softer as these ones down here. I decided to just give it a go with the generative fill. So what I did was I outlined the heart, went back on myself. So I just selected the outside of it, just where I wanted the shadow. Generative fill, and then I just did it. I don't think I actually put anything in here. I just selected it and saw what it had to say for itself. Who's in the chat? Anyone? Oh, here we go. So again, we are live, so it's not doing what I want it to do, obviously. I'm going to generate it again and just see. I think maybe because I'm zoomed in. Because when I generated this, when I edited it, it added the shadow. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you what the hearts look like. Let's ignore this yellow bit down here. So these are all generations around here. Literally every single one is it's actually the same heart. So I copied and pasted it multiple times. So if I try and click on the hearts and then I'll go down to, where's that one? Oh, sorry. That's the hearts down here. Where are you? Where are you, heart? Oh, it's that tiny one there. So as you can see, that layer there, that's it. So that was the copied and paste heart. It's really jaggedy edges. And then I generative filled it and it created like a shadow. It basically mimicked what was already here. So again, this one here, there. So that is the heart that I copied and pasted. And as you can see, jaggedy edge, very rough mask. And then if I just go click on the generative fill, it just blended it in really nicely. I really like using generative fill in this way because it's something that would have taken me hours probably just for one heart to like blend it to the skin. whereas this takes seconds. So as you can see, I'll try to do a big one so you can see the bigger ones. Let's have a look where they are. There, that one. I keep forgetting where I'm pressing. Which one did I press? Oh, hang on, let me zoom out again. There, that one. Click on it. Okay, so that was the copied and pasted heart. I literally just went round it with the lasso tool. Went round the edge. Let's see if it actually does it this time. See what it is. Is it going to do it this? Yep, see, that's what I wanted. It just blends it really nicely. So that is the original heart that I wanted to be there. And then that's the heart that it blended in. But that's the actual one that I wanted. So I'll just click, I'll leave that one. So if I go back to the top here, if I go to the hearts on paper, because I did put these folders in, put these layers into folders, which I don't usually do, but it's meant that this stream could go a bit more smooth because they're in folders. But I should do this every time because it's so easy to go back and like change things then. I'm not usually this organized. So if I just click on, if I just get rid of all these and I can show you as an example on the paper. Zoom down. So this was quite, I mean, it was a process because I was doing each heart individually, but it didn't take me as long as what it would if I'd had to do each shadow separately. So again, I pasted that heart, literally just went around it with the lasso tool like that. Generated, put nothing into it, and it came out with that. Let's see the other one. So I did that one, again, jaggedy edges. Wasn't too fussed about that at that point. And then went round it with the lasso tool. Ooh, a little bit neater than that. So I didn't want it to change this middle bit, which is why I didn't want that bit selected. So I just went around the edge as close as I could to it, but with a little bit of edge so it could put some shadow. And then it did a little shadow. Again, this one, the smaller hearts worked really well actually. Where are you, heart? Again, just ignore this little bit because this is actually generated later. So if I just zoom out a bit and I can show you them all come back. So the layer, then the generative fill, layer, fill, layer, fill, layer, fill, layer, fill. And then the shadows are nicely even as well. It's so good at doing shadows and copying the light. And I think that's what I love about this is that you can copy the light without having to reshoot anything. It just automatically knows that the light source is coming from this way, which obviously it copies what the original hearts have on them, the original shadows. So let me zoom out. So that was the edit for the hearts. I really liked how I wanted it to start with the heart at the bottom because I put the heart on the left-hand side because I believe that's where the heart is. And then I wanted it coming up my face and then onto the paper. But the original idea didn't actually have that. I didn't have that in mind when I was thinking of this concept and shooting it. But I really liked the idea that it had like a bit of a flow going up the paper. So that's why I put the hearts on the paper. But yeah, I got to this point and I was like, I think I need a little bit of extra up here. As I said earlier, I like to add elements in. and I felt like there was just something missing. And again, like I said earlier, I was cutting out these hearts from the green velvet, and that's all I could think of when I was editing this image. And I kind of like to go with a feeling sometimes. So I wanted to add in green scissors. I did quite a few iterations of the scissors. I remember doing the generative fill. So I basically just, and I'll show you what I did, but then tell you what I'll show you what I experimented with, and then I'll tell you what I did. So I basically just circled this area here, a random circle, and put green scissors, and then hoped for the best. And I originally thought maybe making it look like they were cutting the paper, but then I thought the rip is kind of not, the rip is a rip, not scissors, not cut. Oh, did it? Oh, it's because that's on. Oh, hang on. Where are we? Oh, that's because it's in there. There you go. So obviously it put green scissors in then. But I really enjoyed experimenting with where the green scissors might be. So I first started them up here. Then I was like, no, it's a little bit too, obviously these don't work, but it's a bit too far up here. So I wanted them a bit more central, a bit more above my head. Why did you not make a brush of the heart? Because I wanted it to have the same texture as the original heart. So it was just a lot easier to use a copied and pasted. I literally just copied and pasted loads and then moved them around into like obviously the composition. So it was just easier for me to do that. Oh, I thought it was at the time. Probably best idea just to make a brush. So yeah, I'll remember that one. Plus, I wanted it to have the same texture. So when I was actually like circling the outline, it would have the same texture. So yeah, anyway, so the green scissors, but a bit too high up there. So I went for a little bit over this way. Green scissors, cutting paper. And then it got my juices tingling, my creative juices tingling, and I was like, I really want these green scissors in here now. All I can think about is these scissors. So I was considering going back in the studio and shooting some scissors, which I would have normally have done if I knew that that's where the concept was going. But because I wasn't sure where this concept was going, this is more about playing in Photoshop. Kind of just obviously didn't think about that at the time. So the scissors are up here. I was like, nah, it's still not working. So I ended up doing them down here. So green scissors, cutting paper. And I kept saying cutting paper, but I wasn't sure what this was going to do to the image or like how I felt about it. So I just kind of was playing around with that. Cute. I quite like them actually. But with all that, I was like, these scissors aren't working. So I decided to have a look at some stock photos. And then I thought, do you know what? I should best go into the generative workspace. So this is my favorite place to be at the minute. I've been working on the red project, um, which is part of the color project, and I've been working on the ideas for that and the props. So kind of was just generating some red props for that. And as you can see here, I was actually experimenting with the paper, so torn paper, and I was actually taking this torn paper and putting it into the image and see if I could edit it in, but it wasn't quite working. But it's good to have the idea in front of you. I feel like this is what the workspace is good for, is that you can use it to prompt the creativity or the concept or the idea. And I basically put in green scissors, and this is the first prompt that came up, and I've really enjoyed these ones here. So I took this image back into Photoshop. How did I do that? I think I saved it and then opened it up because that was in Photoshop Beta, but I was working in the obviously the latest one. So if I just click on, hang on, where am I? There, scissors. So if I go to, yeah, so as you can see now, this is where I actually changed the color of the paper, and then I did the generative fill to change the edge to tone. So you can see I just changed it because look, if I zoom out, so yellow, so the paper was just looking a little bit too, just wasn't quite working for the image, and I felt like it needed to be either yellow or green. So I tried green, but it didn't work. So yellow, it felt like it blended a bit better. So if I go back into the green scissors, and I'll just take off. So I originally took the background off, basically selected the subject, or removed background. I think it actually just did it automatically. So this is the original image. If I just go back to that, you can see that's the image that I use. I got rid of all the background, obviously the white background. And I made sure that when I was prompting this image, that I put green scissors opens on a white background. Open, because I wanted them open, obviously, to look like it was cut in. But obviously took the shadows off and made sure I just selected the scissors. But I wanted the colour of the scissors to be a little bit darker, so I pretty much just went in with a nice dark green. I think I just selected from here, so I knew what kind of tone I wanted. And then just painted some in. And usually what I do is I'll do it really roughly just to see what the outcome would be. And then I'll go in and refine the edge. I like doing this because it just feels like I'm painting again. So I'll just do an overlay, or I think I might have did a hard light, maybe, or soft light. Oh, not the linear one, the soft one. So it just went a little bit darker. So that's what I did there. I just painted in. In fact, I subtracted it. There you go, subtract. And then the next one, I colour burned it. I think that was a little bit too dark. I can't remember what I did actually. If I've gone back. No, that was what I did. So it was time to add, after that, I thought, do you know what? These scissors are just floating in midair and I just don't think it works in the image. So I just added in a little bit of a shadow, and I did this by just selecting like one of the brown shadows here, because I tend to pick up the shadow from where, like the color of the shadow from where shadow is already existing. So where the heart is obviously having a shadow on the paper, I went from there and I just changed the opacity of the brush and just painted it in a little bit. Just there, just very like rough, didn't think about it too much. And then obviously my favorite thing to do is use generative fill at the minute. So pretty much just added in, this was actually the painted in shadow. And then I went in with generative fill and I circled this area because what I wanted it to do was just blend together. So hang on, shadow. Just see if it will do it this time. So we've got 15 minutes left, so I want to get through to a little bit of retouching and then colouring as well. So I'm going to take you into Lightroom, hopefully, if we've got time. Oh. So as you can see, it did add a shadow, but not the right one. I feel like when I was editing this, maybe I went through loads of iterations of shadow. If I just show you there. This, in fact, yeah, you can see I only did it once, 1, 2, and so it did 3 prompts. So it did it better whilst we weren't live. So let's have a look at that. That's the shadow that I've made. I'll just delete that one. So I pretty much was like, I think I quite like the way that that's obviously mimicked the shadow or used the light source to create the shadow. You're almost like prompting it in a certain direction. I think if I'd just circled it without any shadow, it might not have understood what I was doing. But it's obviously getting better every day. So yeah, I've put another generative there, shadow. So in fact, you can see that was 3 of 3. So these are the other ones that I did, but I quite like number 3. And yeah, then I was zoomed out. And after that, I thought, love that. That is like where I wanted it to go. But I was like, these scissors are so random. Like, what are they actually doing? I mean, obviously, all my ideas are a bit random, but I wanted it to make sense to me. We've got 10 minutes left. Thank you. Thanks, Robert. um, so yeah, the heart in the scissors. I pretty much, again, just picked one of these hearts up, copied, pasted it, and then I used a mask to, in fact, you can see there because I had a little bit of the edge there. So I use a mask just to mask where the scissors are, and I wanted it to make it look like it was cutting it. So that is pretty much where I got to with the edit. And I was super happy with that. So what I usually do is I'll edit the base image, edit all the elements in, and then I'll retouch it. So the retouch is basically consisted of sort of frequency separation and a bit of skin smoothing. So that is, I'll just show you because I've got it toggled on there. So that's before and that is after. So I like to highlight the hair, and I'll do this by literally using some dodge and burn. I change my skin tone a little bit just to like make it a little bit more even. I quite like more of like an even tone, obviously all over, just to like, I don't know, make it a little bit more doll-like, I suppose. Then I added in a bit more eyebrow, and I did this. So as you can see, that's the before, just to fill it out a little bit because I felt like it was off balance. But I did this by adding in, well, I would go on to the brush tool, and I always pick up the hard round pressure size. So the one that actually has like a taper at either end. Sometimes I use the one that's got the soft, it's like a soft in the middle, but still a bit hard on the edges. And I'll take it down to like literally 3-4 pixels, or the, yeah, size. And I'll just draw the, oh, you have to see them, draw them back in. Oh, that's a different color. We don't want brown, like a orangey brown. So I'll just put these in. I obviously would spend quite a lot of time just like making sure that the shape was right, etc. And I forgot to say earlier, actually, if I just say the before. Oh, we haven't got before there. 1 second. If I zoom down and go on the base layer, you can see all of these hairs. I actually used the remove tool. So this is a new tool, I believe. The remove tool with the little sparkles. I'm not sure what that one actually is. Yeah, I think it's just remove. But it does use a bit of generative fill. And so all I did was just, so sometimes it says it here actually, auto. So I've got it on may use generative AI. So on this, I think it's actually using it. Sometimes it doesn't use the AI, it actually just samples the area. But as you can see, it just gets rid of the hair and I go around, and each individual hair that I don't like, I will get rid of. And I did add some hearts to the hair here as well. So the other retouching that I do is dodge and burn, like I just said. So I just go in with a bit of dodge and burn and lighten up the areas of the hair. Make sure that, in fact, sometimes I put a black and white layer on, and I will see where the, if I just quickly take off that, you can see where I've just highlighted each area. Black and white just makes it a little bit flatter, so you can see where the darks and the lights are. But again, I'm going through this very quickly. I think this took me about 8 to 12 hours, this image. So the step, oh, that's the hair. Actually, I think I cleaned up the hair. So with colour, I'm not sure if we've got much time left. I've only got about 5-10 minutes left. But with the colour, I pretty much, and I'm just going to open Lightroom. So what I do, and this is quite an unconventional way, but this is my process. So it might be might be different for everyone. But I like to bring my images into Lightroom, do all the color editing and over exaggerate it. So I'll literally over exaggerate all the colors. So the greens, the skin tones, and then I'll export that image and put it on top. So if I just show you this one. So that is the image that obviously you've just seen in Lightroom. Um, so I'll do things like the highlights. This is kind of like my kind of go-to panel here. If I click on the Photoshop now. So yeah, then I'll go and bring it in as like a separate layer and just turn the opacity down. I quite like to have a little bit more control of that. Then I'll go in with the layers, add more, levels and brighten it up a little bit. So I try not to do too much color editing because I quite like the colors that are already there. Um, I noticed that the yellow had gone a little bit too bright. So what I did was use a selective color and just put some, well, change the yellow to a little bit darker. And then I think that was pretty much the final image. I think it was, you know. So we went from this to this. And again, I went into this with not much idea, just more experimenting. I knew that I wanted these hearts on my face. I knew what kind of message that I wanted to send, but I felt like it needed that extra little bit of adding in, and I felt like I did it justice for the process. Um, so yeah, that is pretty much it. I will actually just show you whilst we've got a few more minutes left of a little bit more of the hair process because if I just get rid of these, um, yeah, I'll bring that back. So this is the before. So as you can see here, if I just show you after and before, you can see all the little hairs. I mean, whilst you're shooting, I'm obviously shooting myself. I can't always see these tiny little hairs that are in the way or so what I'll do again is I'll just go with the remove tool and just individually remove each one. It does take a little bit of time, but it's quick in the grand scheme of things. And obviously I would have sometimes used the patch tool, so this one. Sometimes I would have used this, but it doesn't work as well now because, well, you can see, but it kind of leaves a little bit of remnants of, no, it's just not working. So if I just go to, oh, let me just go on that again. Remove tool. Like here, you can see that the hair is on the heart and I didn't want it to be. And these little details are stuff that I would spend a few hours, you know, working on. Let's see what that does. I think this is using AI. Now it's because sometimes it doesn't take this long. So I think this is using the AI. So you can see, I don't know if I've got before. Hang on. Have I got before? Yeah, there. So before and after. So I would just go in like here, this like rogue hair. And I just love this remove tool because it adds in like where the hair, obviously these hairs are crossing over, it'll show you in a second. And yeah, it mimics what this hair underneath would have been doing anyway. So I just go like this. So I'll spend quite, and I do like quite smooth hair, but then I also sometimes like adding hair back in, depending on where it's sitting. Um, so I'll show you another example of that actually is what I would do. It's kind of very similar to what I would do with the eyebrows. So like down here, I think on the original image, sorry, the final image, I added in a little bit of hair here. I kind of just to mimic the movement. Let me just show you. Just the movement of the hair. So as you can see, this is before, and what I would do is add another layer, go back to my brushes, hard round pressure size, and then sample the colour, which is the colour of the hair, get it quite small, and then just add in a little bit. So it's, you know, I like those little details because I like zooming in and seeing them. I mean, some people might not even notice them. You probably can't even see them on here. But I just like that little bit of detail. It makes sense to me. Also, I really enjoy in this highlight here. That's actually one thing that I do. If I go back to the actual final colour, what I like to do is add a bright highlights, which is, I believe, it's just the colour, selective colour. And if you go to whites and put the black on the white panel right down, it adds on a little bit of highlight. But that is pretty much it. I think we're finished. I'm really happy with the final outcome of this one. Let me know what you guys think. And if you're interested, obviously, in following me, then head to Holly Rose Stones. That's me on everything. I do a lot of TikTok videos, Instagram videos, behind the scenes, and YouTube and stuff like that as well. So I'd love to see you over there. And thank you for joining me today. I've enjoyed this 1 hour solo live stream. It's been fun. Thank you everyone for joining, and I'll hopefully see you soon.